Have you ever walked into a room and forgotten why you were there, or stared at a screen knowing you have work to do, but your brain feels like it's running through mud? That's not laziness, that's not weakness. That's mental fog, and it's silently stealing your potential. But what if I told you in the next few minutes you'll learn how to clear that fog, sharpen your thinking, and unlock a version of yourself who doesn't hesitate, who speaks with purpose, and who moves through life with unshakable clarity? This isn't just about thinking better, it's about becoming unstoppable. You were never meant to carry everything at once. Not every thought, not every worry, not every open loop. Yet that's what so many of us do. Wake up with our minds already sprinting through checklists, regrets, fears, future plans, unresolved arguments, and unfinished to-dos. We scroll endlessly, consume constantly, and wonder why we feel mentally heavy. Why our clarity fades, why we're tired before the day even starts. The answer is simple, but most people never stop to acknowledge it. Your mind is not a storage unit, it's a processor, and a processor running on overload crashes. We don't experience brain fog because we're broken. We experience it because we've become addicted to holding onto everything, emotionally, mentally, digitally. Most people think productivity is about doing more. No, real clarity begins with doing less and letting go of what was never yours to carry in the first place. You want to think clearly, start by decluttering, and I don't just mean your desk or your inbox. I mean your internal environment. What are you still rehearsing in your mind that already ended? What conversations are you replaying that never gave you peace the first 100 times you ran through them? What decisions are you still undecided about, floating somewhere between maybe and someday? You don't need a better brain, you need less noise. The mind gets foggy when it's full of fragments, unfinished thoughts, lingering guilt, loose ends we've refused to cut. Clarity doesn't come when you add more to your plate. It comes when you remove the distractions that never should have been there in the first place. Some of you are trying to build your future while still clinging to mental files from 5 years ago. That's like trying to run today's software on a machine that's jammed with pop-ups. It's not going to work. Start with your decisions. Every unresolved decision you leave open in your mind is a weight you carry. You don't notice it at first, but they stack. Small doubts, tiny what-ifs. The stuff you tell yourself you'll handle later. Each one is a window in your brain, slowing you down, fragmenting your focus. Decide, choose, close the loop, because indecision is one of the greatest sources of mental fog. Then look at your emotional clutter. Resentments, grudges, regrets. These are heavy files. They eat up space in your mental operating system. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or excusing. It means you stop revisiting pain that no longer serves your present. You stop rehearsing the same story about why something broke or who hurt you. You clear that mental real estate so your energy can focus forward, not backward. Now audit your information intake. You can't expect clarity if your daily input is chaos. Social media, constant news alerts, non-stop entertainment. We're consuming more information in a day than people did in a year a century ago. And most of it is useless. Not just useless, it's toxic to your ability to think deeply and calmly. If you're constantly feeding your mind with comparison, fear, noise, and distraction, then of course you'll feel cloudy. You have to get ruthless with what you allow into your mental environment. Be a gatekeeper, not a sponge. Clarity is a discipline. It doesn't just happen. It has to be created. It requires that you pause, breathe, and give your mind the silence it's begging for. Some of the sharpest thinking you'll ever do won't happen When you're grinding, it'll happen. When you finally slow down long enough to hear your own thoughts again. Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. There's a reason the world keeps pulling your attention outward. It's profitable for others when you're distracted. But the greatest power you'll ever hold isn't found outside. It's within your ability to direct your mind with intention. That means you clear space, you remove clutter, you stop hoarding every piece of content, every worry, every expectation. When you finally release what doesn't serve your clarity, you'll be amazed at what rises to the surface. Calm, focus, confidence. It's been there all along, just buried under layers of noise. And when your mind is clear, you don't hesitate. You don't second guess. You act, you speak, you lead with precision, you reclaim your edge. Because a focused mind is a dangerous thing. Your brain is not some casual organ just doing background work while life plays out. It's the command center of everything. How you think, how you feel, how you show up in the world. So why do we treat it like it doesn't matter what we feed it, how we rest it, or how we maintain it? If your brain were a high-performance machine, and it is, you'd realize every input counts. Every bite, every thought, every habit is either fueling clarity or feeding the fog. You want to eliminate brain fog? Then you have to start thinking like an engineer of your own mental performance. Your clarity, your energy, your confidence, they're not magic. They're the results of choices, daily, deliberate choices, the same way an athlete treats their body like a vehicle for greatness. You have to treat your mind like a Formula One engine, high stakes, high standards, no junk in the tank. Start with the basics because no one outperforms poor fuel. You can't eat garbage and expect gold. Level focus. Processed foods, excessive sugar, skipping hydration. It doesn't just slow your body, it clouds your cognition. You feel sluggish, irritable, distracted. Your brain isn't malfunctioning, it's malnourished, and it doesn't take long to correct when you stop ignoring it. Start with water. You'd be surprised how often brain fog is just chronic dehydration wearing a different mask. A few days of proper hydration, balanced meals, real food, not fake food, and suddenly you're sharper, more present, more driven. But it's not just about food, it's about rhythm. Your brain operates on cycles, not chaos. You can't run it 18 hours a day with no breaks, 5 hours of sleep, and expect it to be creative or resilient. Rest is fuel, sleep is fuel, stillness is fuel. You're not lazy for pausing, you're smart. Every system in your body is trying to tell you the same thing. When you rest, you recover. And when you recover, you return with fire. Stop treating exhaustion like a badge of honor. It's not. It's a warning. Now, let's talk about inputs beyond the physical, because what you feed your brain emotionally and mentally is just as critical. You can eat clean and still be mentally toxic if your daily diet is gossip, comparison, fear, and outrage. The brain is shaped by repetition. What you consume consistently becomes your filter. If you want a clear mind, protect your inputs, guard your feed, surround yourself with content and people that stretch you, not shrink you. And don't forget movement. Physical activity doesn't just benefit your body, it rewires your brain. Every time you move, you're releasing chemicals that increase focus, enhance mood, and reduce mental fatigue. This isn't motivational fluff, it's science. You want to break mental fog, get up and move, walk, breathe, lift, sweat. Movement flushes the stress, it grounds your attention, it reconnects you with momentum. But here's the key: consistency. One green smoothie won't sharpen your mind. One workout won't eliminate fog. One good night's sleep won't reset years of imbalance. The mind thrives on rhythm, on habits. Don't just fuel your brain once. Build a life around fueling it daily. Make high performance your baseline, not your occasional peak. We've glamorized hustle culture and demonized discipline. We've traded performance for constant stimulation. But clarity doesn't live in chaos, it lives in structure. The sharper your routines, the clearer your mind. Your rituals matter. Your mornings matter. The first thing you feed your brain in the morning will often determine the quality of your focus for the rest of the day. Is it junk or is it intentional? You decide. So here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Brain fog isn't inevitable. It's often optional. It's a reflection of overload, poor maintenance, and neglected inputs. But once you shift your identity from someone who tries to stay focused to someone who fuels their mind like a pro, everything changes. You stop waiting for clarity and you start creating it. You stop reacting to fatigue and you start preventing it. This isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. When your actions align with what your brain actually needs, you won't need hacks, you'll have habits. And those habits will give you what most people are desperately chasing: clarity, presence, and power under pressure. Because a mind that's well fueled doesn't just function, it dominates. You want clarity, then move, not in circles, not in theory. I'm talking about physically move, step forward, sweat, lift, stretch, push. Because if you don't move your body, your mind stays trapped. And when your mind is trapped, you feel stuck even when you're surrounded by possibilities. Most people are searching for the next mental breakthrough by sitting still. But real breakthroughs, those moments when confusion clears and confidence takes over, rarely happen while you're just thinking. They happen in motion. You can't separate the mind from the body. They're not two systems. There's one engine and they're codependent. You move one, you move the other. Every time you walk, every time you sprint, every time you feel your lungs expand and your heartbeat accelerate, your brain lights up. Literally, blood flows, oxygen increases, neurochemistry shifts. And what once felt foggy begins to sharpen. This isn't just motivational speech, it's biological law. You want to shift your mindset, then start with your muscles. Here's the problem. People say they feel too tired to move. They're waiting for energy to show up before they take action. But it doesn't work that way. Energy doesn't come before movement, it follows it. You want to feel more alive, then act alive, even if it's just 5 minutes. Even if it's just walking out your front door and breathing deep with intention. That's the signal your brain's been waiting for. That's when clarity starts to crack through the fog. It's not about being an athlete. This isn't about six-packs or chasing some aesthetic. This is about using your body the way it was built to be used, as an instrument of mental power. You were not meant to be sedentary, staring at screens, scrolling through anxiety all day. That's not life. That's paralysis disguised as productivity. But you shift that reality the moment you choose to move. You show your mind what momentum looks like, and that momentum becomes a habit. You ever notice how some of your best thoughts come in the middle of a run, a workout, even a long walk? That's not a coincidence. That's the truth revealing itself. The mind begins to open up when the body is no longer compressed by stillness. Stagnation kills vision, movement reawakens it. You stop obsessing over the problem and start remembering your power. That's what physical movement does. It dissolves mental loops. It shuts down excuses. It drowns out the noise in your head and gives you clarity that you don't need to think your way into. You feel your way into it. Discipline begins with action, not intention. You can journal your goals all day long. You can meditate and visualize, that's all good. But until you move, until you act, your mind will always question whether you really mean it. But when you push through resistance, when you do what your excuses said you couldn't, you prove to your own brain that you are not to be underestimated. That's when self-respect gets built, not from reading, but from repetition, not from planning, but from persistence. This is why so many people feel lost in their heads. They are disconnected from their bodies. Their mind is racing while their body is stagnant. No wonder they can't find clarity. They're out of sync with the very system designed to help them think clearly. Movement realigns you. It brings coherence. The body and the mind begin to speak the same language again. Action, progress, growth. It doesn't matter if it's a 5 a.m. gym session, a walk after lunch, or stretching in your room in silence. Movement is movement. And every time you choose it, you sharpen your mental edge. You're not just working out. You're working through doubt, through fear, through fatigue. You're training your nervous system to associate challenge with clarity, not chaos. And that shift, that's power, because now you're not dependent on motivation. You're fueled by motion. You've created a loop where effort creates energy, and energy drives effort. That's how high performers think. That's how they live. So the next time your brain says, "I can't think straight," don't just sit and spiral. Stand up, move, lift, walk, breathe, interrupt the pattern with motion. Let your body carry your mind out of the fog and into the fire. The clarity you're looking for is not behind more thinking. It's waiting for you on the other side of movement. Because once you move your body, your mind has no choice but to follow. What you feed your mind becomes your mindset. And in a world that's always talking, always scrolling, always buzzing, most people are mentally exhausted not because of what they're doing, but because of what they're constantly consuming. You want to eliminate brain fog. You want to think clearly and confidently. Then you've got to audit your inputs, because garbage in, confusion out. Every time, think about it. You wouldn't pour dirty fuel into a high-performance engine and expect it to run clean. You wouldn't feed a champion athlete junk food all day and then wonder why they're underperforming. But somehow, we do that with our minds all the time. We drown in endless content, half-truths, gossip, sensational news, negativity from people who aren't even living the life we want. And then we wonder why we feel distracted, overwhelmed, anxious, foggy. The mind reflects what it's given. It's not magic, it's not random, it's responsive. The clarity you're looking for can't live in a mind that's crowded with contradiction. 1 minute you're watching motivational content. The next, you're lost in comment sections full of bitterness. 1 minute you're inspired to build. The next, you're comparing yourself to strangers on social media. That's a mental war zone, not a path to clarity. You've got to protect your gates. What you read, what you watch, who you listen to. These aren't neutral experiences. They're shaping your thoughts, whether you realize it or not. So stop pretending you can consume anything and everything and come out focused. You can't. No one can. Even the strongest minds crack under constant noise. You've got to filter what enters. You've got to ask the hard questions. Is this building my belief or breaking it? Is this feeding my clarity or feeding my confusion? Is this helping me think for myself, or is it programming me to doubt myself? If the answer leans toward destruction, then you've got to cut it. Not in 6 months, not after you finish the series, now. You're not weak for feeling drained. You're just not protecting your mental energy the way you protect your time, your money, or your reputation. You've got to treat your attention like it's sacred, because it is. You've got to be ruthless about who gets to speak into your mind, and I'm not talking about being paranoid. I'm talking about being intentional. Your brain is not a dumpster. Don't let the world treat it like one. When you clear out the junk, something powerful happens. You create space, and in that space, clarity begins to grow. You hear your own voice again, the one that's been buried under everyone else's. You regain your ability to think independently. You reconnect with your values, your standards, your vision, and for the first time in a long time, you stop reacting and start responding. That's when you know the fog is lifting, not because everything outside of you changed, but because you finally took control of what you let inside. Start simple, cut out one toxic input, one negative feed, one source of noise. Replace it with silence or with something that sharpens you. Read things that stretch your thinking, not shrink it. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to rise, not blend in. Feed your mind with the same excellence you want to produce in your life, because you will never outperform the quality of your inputs. Not for long. The world isn't going to slow down. The noise isn't going to disappear. But you can get smarter about what you allow in. You can train your focus to ignore what doesn't serve your purpose. You can rise above the distractions, not by doing more, but by doing less with more intention. This is about ownership. You don't get clarity by accident. You create it. You don't wake up focused. You train for it. And the training begins with what you allow to influence your mind. Every scroll, every headline, every voice. It either feeds your greatness or it feeds your doubt. You get to choose. So if you're serious about eliminating brain fog and thinking with confidence, then stop outsourcing your clarity to chaos. Take back control. Audit your inputs. Clean up your feed. Protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. And once you do that, the confusion you thought was part of you will fade, and the clarity that's always been there will finally rise to the surface. Most people go through their entire day breathing without noticing it, thinking without questioning it, reacting without choosing it, and that's exactly the problem, because what's unconscious controls you until you decide to make it conscious. If you want clarity, confidence, and control over your mind, you've got to stop living on autopilot. You've got to breathe on purpose, think on purpose, move through your day like you're in command, not just drifting. Let's start with something simple but powerful, your breath. You breathe thousands of times a day, but how many of those breaths are deliberate, focused, grounding? Most people wait until they're panicked, anxious, or overwhelmed before they even notice their breath. But your breath is your anchor. It's your reset button, and it's available every single moment, no matter what's going on around you. When the world gets chaotic, when your thoughts start racing, when your emotions feel too loud, your breath is your way back to center. Not reacting, responding, not spiraling, steadying. You don't need a meditation mat or a perfect environment. You just need intention. One deep breath held for a moment and released slowly. Do that and watch what happens. Your nervous system calms down, your thoughts slow. You stop living 5 steps ahead or 10 steps behind and drop into this one moment. And that moment, that's where power lives. That's where clear thinking begins. But it's not just about the breath. It's what follows the breath, thought, and not just any thought. Conscious, focused on, purpose thought. The problem is, most people let their mind wander wherever it wants. They think because the thought showed up, it must be true. Because it feels urgent, it must be important. That's a trap. Your mind is not always right. It's not always accurate. It's often loud, often reactive, often filled with old stories and false limits that were handed to you, not chosen by you. If you don't stop and question those thoughts, they'll run your life. Thoughts like I'm not good enough, what if I fail, or nothing ever changes for me. Those aren't just thoughts, they're seeds, and if you don't rip them out by the root, they'll grow into beliefs. beliefs that shape your decisions, your habits, your life. But when you breathe on purpose, you give yourself the space to catch them. You notice what's happening in your head before it becomes your reality. So ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Is this thought mine, or did I inherit it from fear, comparison, or the past? Is this thought leading me to where I want to go, or pulling me back to who I used to be? Most people never stop long enough to ask, but the moment you do, you take your power back. You shift from being controlled by your thoughts to choosing them. And here's the truth most people avoid. Clear thinking takes work. It takes discipline. You have to train your mind like you train your body, not once, not when you feel like it, daily, especially when you don't feel like it. You need rituals that sharpen your focus and protect your peace, moments of stillness, journaling your thoughts, challenging your assumptions, visualizing what matters, and breathing through the noise instead of reacting to it. Because once you learn how to think on purpose, life gets clearer, decisions get easier, doubt loses its grip. You stop chasing every distraction, every drama, every emotional spike. You move differently. You listen better. You speak with more weight. And people will wonder how you stay so calm under pressure, how you make decisions with such certainty. They won't realize it's not magic, it's mastery. You trained for this? You're not just reacting to life anymore. You're responding with purpose. And that's the standard. That's the mindset that builds mental strength and clarity. It's not about never struggling. It's about never surrendering your awareness. You feel the emotion, but you breathe through it. You hear the thought, but you challenge it. You get distracted, but you return. That's how you build a mind that doesn't break. That's how you eliminate the fog and rise with focus. So the next time life gets loud, breathe on purpose. The next time your mind floods with doubt, think on purpose. Own the space between stimulus and response. Because in that space lies the freedom to be who you were meant to be. Most people wait to feel confident before they act, but if that's your strategy, you'll be waiting forever. Confidence doesn't show up at your doorstep fully formed. It's not a gift. It's not a lightning bolt. It's something you build brick by brick, with action, with presence, with clarity. The truth is, confidence is a result, not a requirement. And the way you get there is by acting decisively and speaking deliberately, even when you're unsure, even when the nerves hit, even when nobody claps. You don't need to have every answer to make a move. You need to trust that clarity comes after commitment, not before. The more you hesitate, the more you give fear the microphone. The more you overthink, the louder doubt gets. But when you act, when you take a step even with shaky legs, the fog starts to lift. You learn something, you get feedback, you grow, and that's where the real clarity comes from, through movement, through doing, through making a decision and seeing what happens next. When you hesitate, you're often trying to protect something, your image, your ego, your sense of control. But life doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards direction. The people who lead, the ones who make impact, they're not always the smartest in the room, but they're usually the ones who move with intention. They speak with conviction, not perfection, and that's what draws people to them. That's what builds trust, not flawless execution, but a clear presence. Speaking deliberately isn't about sounding impressive. It's about meaning what you say and saying only what you mean. Most people talk too much and say too little. They fill the space with filler words, nervous rambling, or passive tones, trying to avoid judgment. But the strongest people, the most grounded leaders, they speak slowly when it counts. They pause when others panic. They let silence do some of the work, because they're not trying to be loud, they're trying to be heard. If you want to sharpen your presence, start here. Say less, mean more, cut the fluff, speak directly. Say what you believe, not what you think they want to hear, and watch how people start to listen, because we live in a world that's drowning in noise. Everyone's talking, few are saying anything of value. When you speak with clarity and calm, you immediately stand out. You show people you've thought this through, that you're not just reacting, you're rooted. Now here's the part most won't tell you. There will be moments where you feel like you're faking it. Like you're pretending to be someone you haven't fully become. That's normal. You're not faking it. You're forming it. You're stepping into the version of you that acts from purpose, not panic. And the only way to make that version real is to keep showing up like they would. Not recklessly, but decisively. Not loudly, but deliberately. That's how you start to believe in yourself. That's how others start to believe in you too. It's not about arrogance. It's not about always being right. It's about being centered in your intent and steady in your action. When people feel your conviction, when they sense that you've done the work, they lean in. They trust you. But more importantly, you start to trust yourself. You stop chasing external approval to validate your worth. You stop waiting for permission to lead your own life. That kind of clarity, where you know what matters to you, what you stand for, and where you're going makes you a force. Because it's not reactive, it's grounded, and from that place, your decisions carry weight. Your words carry truth. Your presence becomes undeniable. That's how confidence is born. Not from hype, not from applause, but from alignment. From knowing your values, from committing to action, and from speaking like every word costs something. So stop waiting for perfect conditions. They won't come. Stop trying to feel confident before you act. That's backward. Instead, act like someone who knows where they're going, even if the path isn't fully visible yet. Speak like someone who knows what matters, even if your voice shakes a little at first. The mind clears up when the body moves and the voice aligns. Act decisively, speak deliberately. Confidence will catch up.